Before the Beatles, before the Beach Boys, before the Rolling Stones, there were the Big Beats. 32 different members performed with the band over a period of 23 years. The band was started in 1956 with original members Jerry Zapata, Earl Slocum, Donnie McCord, Trini Lopez, Larry Randall, and C.W. Kendall. In 1955 and 56, the two most popular bands in Dallas were C.W. Kendall and the Blue Notes and the Trini Lopez Combo. In 1956, the two bands merged and became the Trini Lopez Combo. The band performed mostly for private parties, NCO clubs, and lounges that were owned by the infamous Jack Ruby. In late 1956, the band met Mr. Holly, father of Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Mr. Holly urged the band to call Buddy's manager, Norman Petty, in Clovis, New Mexico. While riding in a car coming from a job in Wichita Falls, Texas, the band nervously made the call to Norman Petty to request an interview. Mr. Petty said, "Come on out." Driving most of the night, the band arrived in Clovis. They played a few songs for one of Clovis's top record producers and arrangers. Norman Petty smiled and said, "You guys are great. Let's make records." The Big Beats were born that day. The band recorded 16 songs of their own. They were the top requested band, performing with all of the top artists of the day: Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Roy Orbison, Buddy Knox, Jimmy Bowen, Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, Ricky Nelson, Sonny James, and Bobby Darin. The group never really considered themselves a rock band, but more of a rhythm and blues, pop, and commercial band. The Big Beats actually had many sounds, with the rhythm and blues roots of C.W. and Donnie, mixed with a rockabilly sound from Earl, a pop feel from Jerry and Larry's sax appeal for the big jazz sound. They presented a mix that the other bands just didn't have. In 1956, the Big Beats were signed by Mitch Miller to Columbia Records. They were the first rock band to be signed by that label. The band's first record on Columbia's label was Clark's Expedition, named for Dick Clark. Dick Clark loved the record so much that he wanted to use it for the theme song on his show, American Bandstand. The Big Beats manager and the show's producer could not agree on a royalty arrangement, which probably cost the group in millions of lost revenue. Nevertheless, the band became a favorite on American Bandstand and continued with their recording career and tours. Trini Lopez left the band in early 1958 over artistic differences. The band never missed a beat, going on to be one of the top touring groups in the country. January 31st, 1958, Clark's Expedition went to number 1 in every market where the Big Beats had performed. In 1960, the band went to Europe for 6 months to perform USO shows, adding a very sizable foreign fan club. In the early 60s, the band was forced to make some changes when Jerry and Earl were called to do their duty for Uncle Sam. It didn't take long for Earl to find a way to perform. He played in a band in Germany with singer-songwriter Sonny Curtis. While performing at the Dream Room in New Orleans, the Big Beats got their next big break when friends Pete Fountain, Al Hirt, and the Dukes of Dixieland made a call to Dave Victorson, the entertainment director at the Thunderbird Hotel in Las Vegas. They raved about the Big Beats, the hot new group in New Orleans. Shortly thereafter, the band went to Las Vegas for a one-night audition without pay. The Thunderbird loved the Big Beats, and soon so did all of Vegas. The group performed there for 5 years. In 1966, the newly opened Caesars Palace hired the Big Beats. They soon became regulars on the Nevada circuit, adding another 12 weeks a year at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe and Reno. The band had continued recording, and in 1965 changed their label to Liberty Records. They recorded their first album for Liberty at the Off-Broadway in San Francisco. 1965 also led them to a 4-month Far East tour. The fans kept coming. In 1967, the band performed in Alaska for 4.5 months. While there, C.W. and Larry, the original members, saved most of their earnings and decided to open nightclubs when they returned to Texas. They formed Ken Ran Enterprises and opened a club in Fort Worth. It was an instant success. They opened 13 more clubs throughout the Southeast, with the Big Beats performing in most of them. In 1968, CW retired from the Big Beats to oversee the clubs, manage the band, and run their new entertainment agency. Larry continued to perform with the band. The two remained partners in all of those ventures until the early 1980s. So, where are the Big Beats today? During the mid-60s, Donnie McCord left the band to perform in Dallas. Sadly, Donnie became ill and passed away on August 3, 1978. It was the loss of a great talent and a dear friend. Earl Slocum now owns a very successful hair salon in Dallas. Jerry Zapata, now retired, lives in Las Vegas, where he performed for several years. He was also a blackjack dealer at the Hacienda and the Golden Nugget. Trini Lopez lives in Palm Springs, California, and performs on special occasions. C.W. Kendall is president and owner of Kenran Entertainment Productions, providing name and regional acts and producing shows for corporate events, concerts, fairs, and festivals. Larry Randall is still performing on a regular basis for corporate events and private parties. After performing as a headliner on some of the most glamorous cruise ships in the world, Larry returned to Dallas. Larry had a new vision for his career. He now leads the band Joshua, a 30-piece gospel group. Larry is also a pastor and has a music ministry at Lonesome Dove Church. Throughout their years of touring 42 states and 27 foreign countries, the Big Beats have performed and toured with the greatest rock and roll stars of the 50s and 60s. The all-time leading newspaper columnist and radio announcer Walter Winchell once wrote, "The Big Beats should be booked wherever there's a stage." After their 40-year reunion concert, the group got back together with original members Earl Slocum, Larry Randall, C.W. Kendall, and former members Billy Mitchell and Bobby Rambo. They now play private parties, fairs, festivals, and concerts. And now, listen to the sounds of the Big Beats.